ये जिंदगी है कौम की से कौम पर लुटाए. These lines have been told and taught to every child born in this Bharat movie. This couplet, in its very essence, truly captures the spirit of Netaji's vision of being together and always eager to make supreme sacrifice for the community and the motherland. Namaskar. Greetings on behalf of Bharat Book Club, an initiative of Historical India and YUVA-led Vimarsh 2022. It is an immense pleasure and honor to welcome you all to this book discussion on Bose, the untold story of an inconvenient nationalist, followed by conversations with Professor Kapil Kumar and the author Chandrachur Ghose. The Bharat Book Club, an initiative of Historical India, is a forum for students and scholars who share an enthusiasm for leadership and deliberation of ideas. Based in the University of Delhi, the club aims at reviving the culture of reading and research, from hosting book launches to introducing and reintroducing literature, publishing book reviews, enhancing bibliographic research, to initiating novel bibliophile endeavors, forge the essence of the Bharat Book Club. Historical India. It is a community-based digital wiki platform stimulating an exclusive discourse on multidisciplinary history. It's a platform where one can create and edit wiki articles, ensuring that the discourse reaches the masses by cracking the dynamics of search engine optimization. Almost one-third articles in Historical India appear in the top 5 searches in the various engines. It also aims to serve as a platform for historical deliberation beyond the digital space. For me, as a proud citizen, all words and verses of known and unknown vocabulary fall short to introduce the greatest patriot and a true fighter, Netaji Subhas Bose. I hereby take it up from book's title and say that Netaji was truly an inconvenient nationalist. To take the discussion ahead on Netaji Bose, we have on the panel with us noted author Chandrachur Ghose. Sir is an author, researcher and commentator on history, economics and environment. He has graduated from Vishwa Bharati and the University of Sussex. Sir has also co-authored a national bestseller, Conundrum, Bose's Life After Death. He is also one of the founders of the pressure group Mission Netaji that has been the moving force behind the declassification of secret documents related to Netaji Subhas Bose. Now, I would request Shri, core member, Promotions and Outreach, Historical India, to please come on the stage and felicitate Chandrachur Sir, Tulsi Plant and a Vimarsh 2022 memento. On the dais with us, we also have Professor Kapil Kumar, historian and writer. Professor Kapil Kumar, sir, is currently a senior fellow at Nehru Memorial Museum and Library. He has been a visiting professor to Monash University, University of Catania, University of West Indies, and a university in Suriname. He has co-authored 4 books and has published a number of research papers and articles, besides presenting papers in many national and international conferences. He has been a member of the Press Council of India, ICHR, and many other national bodies. Professor Kumar has curated the 4 museum annexes at Red Fort, namely Delhi 1857, Yad-e-Jalia, Azadi Ka Diwane, and Netaji and IMA. I request Soham, core member, research and projects, to please felicitate Professor Kapil Kumar with Tulsi Plant and a Vimarsh 2022. I rest my words and hand over the mic and the stage to the 2 dignitaries, the stalwarts sitting here to commence the discussion on the book Bose, the untold story of an inconvenient nationalist. Thank you.
Thank you for having me for this wonderful session. It's very inspiring to see young students organizing intellectual conclaves like this to discuss so many diverse topics. New thought processes, new outlooks are gaining prominence, and that is very, very important. So, without getting too much into the outside issues, I I mean, I don't know, I don't want to give a lecture to you, and I would rather keep my talk rather brief and make it more of an interactive session. I'm sure you have a lot of questions to ask, so it's better that we develop the session through questions and answers than me lecturing you on the book or the life of Netaji. So I'll just say a few words about the book. Why did I write this book? That was the first question I had faced, that there are so many biographies of Netaji. Why write this book? And the even more critical question that I have faced all the time is, why did I name it An Inconvenient Nationalist? So, see, there have been hundreds of biographies written on Subhas Chandra Ghose. But if you look at the biographies, his first biography, I think, was published when he was just 29 years old. And that was a biography written in Bengali that published in 1926 by one of his associates, revolutionary associates. In 1926, he was in prison in Mandalay in Burma. And after that, obviously, there were many more books, the collection of his speeches, his writings and everything. He was a thinker. He was a politician, but he was, above everything, he was a thinker. So, the actual proper biography started coming after independence. And I mean, call it whatever you want, fortunately or unfortunately, whatever. His first proper biography was written by a foreigner, by YUVA. YUVA was a member of the British military intelligence who was chasing Netaji in the theatre of the Second World War in Southeast Asia. It was YUVA's responsibility to find out whether actually he had died in the plane crash or not. And when YUVA started writing, after he wrote the book, while in the process of writing, all the writing from the British perspective, he became sort of a fan, he grew an admiration for the enemy number one of the British Empire. And he was roundly criticized around the world for taking a sympathetic view of his subject. But since YUVA, there have been a number of good biographies. But the main drawback of these biographies is they are written in a resume style. That Subhas Bose was born in 1897 in Cuttack, and then he came to Calcutta for his studies, got admitted in Presidency College, was rusticated, then he got readmitted after a year in the Scottish Church College, then he went to England for his studies and for studying for the ICS exam, quit ICS, joined Indian politics under Deshbandhu Chittaranjan, became the youngest CEO of a municipal corporation, that is Calcutta Corporation, was sent to jail, and so on and so forth. It went on. And then it went on till his formation of INA and the Azadian government. Now, all these are very fascinating incidents, fascinating events and flow of events. And his personality stands out through all these events and discussions. But there was much more to the man. There was a lot of political aspects, a lot of political events, his interactions with the underground revolutionary societies, his interaction, his networking with the foreign governments while he was in exile in Europe for 3 years. A lot of those things were never taken up. A lot of things like his relationship, his proper relationship with the Hindu Mahasabha, with the communist parties, how did they interact, what were the dynamics, what were their interests, what were the conflicts, and what was his vision actually. I mean, we all know the broad vision, the broad outlines. So his biographies mainly were headline events. Even if they were voluminous books, but headline events. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to go in search of the man, something that gives the flavor of the man, how he was evolving. So if you notice, if you read the book, I have constantly called him Subhas. I have never called him Bose or Netaji. So I have tried, it has been my effort, and you will be the final judge as the reader to tell me whether I've achieved that goal, that a reader should grow up with the character. From his birth till the end of his public career, the visible career, political career, military career, you grow with that person. You try to see the world the way he is seen. And his myriads of interactions with different forces, his points of view, his clash with the Gandhian High Command, his getting together with the leftist forces, but then the conflict of interest that emerged, and all these, how it made him a unique person, and in fact so unique that he defied every definition of every school of ism. And for him, it was India. It was India first. And I mean, it was a kind of interesting to watch that during the 2014 elections, if you remember, that the slogan that came back through Narendra Modi was India first. That became the catchword. But it was in 1939 that Subhas Bose stated that fact, that India must think of her interests first. बाकी देशों में क्या हो रहा है, अंदर क्या चल रहा है, it is their internal affairs, internal matters. We are no judge of what they're doing inside their country. Our first and foremost goal is complete independence. And he is one person who never compromised on that goal. He never compromised on that goal of complete independence. And he always warned his followers and the people who heard him to be aware, to caution them that the Congress, the Gandhian Congress, will at some point or other get into a compromise with the British imperialists. Although they are, in theoretical terms, they are talking of independence, but at the first available opportunity, they will compromise, and be very careful about that. Unfortunately, he had no role to play after the Second World War in India and the way India went towards achieving dominion status and then becoming a republic. But that is exactly what happened. I mean, if you look at it, the Congress goal of complete independence and dissociating completely with the British Empire, these two main goals, both were junked. So in 1947, they were happy to accept dominion status, and they were happy to become a member of the British Commonwealth. So both the goals were achieved. The power play that happened, that eagerness to get power in hand and suppress the revolutionary spirit that was sweeping the country from the end of 1945 till, say, around end of 1946, till 1947, early 1947 even. So all this was swept under the carpet. The major goal became just grabbing power somehow. And that is exactly what Subhas Bose had warned against. And he had a strategic view of India's interests, of India's geopolitical position. So that is what, projected him, propelled him towards taking help wherever it was available. So he sought help first from the Soviet Union, and when that was not forthcoming, he got the opportunity from the Axis powers and he grabbed it. For him, it was not a matter of judging what the Axis powers were doing in other theaters of war or domestically. For him, it was important that they were giving support to India's independence. And by that time, the Congress had already started withering. They had started just going soft on the demand for complete independence. The war was always there, but even dominion status was accepted. It became very clear. So all these things made him a very inconvenient nationalist, because he took a stand which went against the majority of the establishment politicians, people who ruled India, governed India for decades. The leaders and their followers who have governed India for decades, Subhas Bose's position was a thorn in the flesh, because he had warned few things, he had cautioned, and exactly those things happened. But admitting that Subhas was right and the mainstream Gandhian High Command was not, that would be a major political problem. So he was kept away for as long as possible. I mean, just to think of how inconvenient he was. The government files, the official files on the INA were declassified, means it was thrown open to public for public viewing only in 1998-99. That is more than 50 years after the INA campaign had ended. The files related to the post-independence files on Netaji were declassified for the first time, and me and my friends played the major role. That is perhaps the only example in our country where private initiative has led to declassification of sensitive government files. That was the only example. 10,000 documents, more than 10,000 documents were declassified in 2010. Then the NDA government came in and Prime Minister Modi took an initiative to declassify more files. So for a person who is officially dead in 1945, his files takes more than 60 years to be declassified. What is the fear? You must ask yourself. And to understand that, you have to read the book. I would recommend that you read it carefully, understand the power dynamics, the battle of ideas, the clash of personalities, and why his post-1945 has been, post-1945 life has been deliberately kept a secret still, while the government is still mum. And so these are very enlightening aspects which help us understand the current politics. And I was talking to a few amongst you last night, and what I was trying to explain is that this is not a matter of history. To tell you just one small incident is when we started, me and my friends started the transparency campaign under the Right to Information Act. We won our first major battle in 2007, and that was only the second time that the Central Information Commission held a full bench hearing. And they asked the Ministry of Home Affairs to release 202 documents to us. And that was a clear, unambiguous order to the government to release 202 documents. Now, after that order is passed, you would expect that the government would give you those documents. But that did not happen. What happened is that 5 people sat around a table to decide whether those documents should be released or not. And this I'm talking about in 2007. And before that, just a few weeks before that, there was a confidential letter from the Home Secretary, one of the most powerful bureaucrats in the country, who knows what he is talking about. There was a confidential letter from the Home Secretary to the Central Information Commission that if all these files which are still kept secret about Netaji, if they are declassified, if they are released, there will be problems within the country. There will be a law and order problem within the country, especially in Bengal. Our relations with foreign countries will suffer. So this is not a normal bureaucratic clerical reply. This is coming from the Home Secretary. So we have to keep that in mind, why the Home Secretary is saying that in 2007. So these 5 people sat together, and who are these 5 people? You will be very surprised to know that it took these 5 people to decide on whether to release the documents or not. These 5 people were part of the Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs, which is the Prime Minister, the Defense Minister, the Home Minister, Foreign Ministers. So these they're the most powerful politicians, the rulers of a country, the people who govern our country, decide our policy. So it took a decision at that level. And then they decided that they will not give those 202 documents, they will release only 91 of them. That is what makes it a matter of current affairs, not history. In 2010-11, I asked for a copy of the manuscript of the history of the INA, which was written by a historian called Shri Chandrachur Ghose. And that was lying in the historical division of the Defense Ministry. I asked for a copy of it. They refused, and by the intervention of the Information Commission again, they were asked to give a copy to me. And what happened next will puzzle you. They did not give the copy of the manuscript to me. Instead, they filed a case in the Delhi High Court. A case not against the Information Commission for passing that order, but a case against me for asking that manuscript. And that case is still going on. That case has still not been withdrawn. So anybody who tells me that Subhas Chandra Bose is a matter of history, I would tell you, think again, study the facts. Okay, so that's all. I won't continue. I would request sir to say a few words, and then I think we should throw the floor open for questions.
I have to salute you. And the reason is, listen to Netaji. If we have so many youth today to understand him, which proves that a new historical and political revolution is taking place in the country. There was a time when even the history Obviously, students will not come for Netaji lectures, which were hardly done in universities because Netaji and his history was suppressed totally. And today I find that students from sciences, from commerce, from management, medicine, IT, they are all so keen. And this resurgence among the youth of India to know what is the factual history of India, I think is a very, very major development of present times, which at least I have been in teaching and research for the last 46 years, but I have never seen that, which we see now. Maybe you may call it that it's because of the social media or the other communication revolution which is taking place. And correlating to that is a new feeling among the youths. As he said, India first, that the youth today has realized that my own career and the nation's career are not two separate things. If India goes up, I will go. If India goes down, I will go. And this again is a very major realization. I was thinking on the title of Chandrachur's book, because we have been in touch for long. When he called Inconvenient Nationalist, I think the title of my book now, the other one which I am going to write on Netaji, first was on INA and Azad and Sarkar and Fauj. I was just now thinking of a title, Unwanted and Wanted Nationalist. A nationalist totally unwanted by Gandhians, by congressmen, and a nationalist totally wanted by the youth and the revolution. Trying to summarize that. Let us not forget certain things. See, one can go on hours speaking on Netaji and Chandrachur, only just very briefly finished it. But none of the history books tells you that Azad Hind Sarkar and Azad Hind Fauj were the only armies and a government in the world which never surrendered to the mighty allied forces when the whole world has surrendered before them in 1945. It's a very crucial point. Because the whole Mountbatten psyche after that is blasting of the memorial in Singapore. Do you know why Mountbatten kept 15th August as the date for transfer of power? Not independence. That's the day he had taken surrender of Japan. He wrote it. Why did our leaders agree to it? What was so special about 15th August? But if Indian independence had to be celebrated, see, every country picks up a date. American independence is not 4th July. That's their declaration. That day they declared themselves independent. So if you have to pick up an Indian date, either pick up 10th May from 1857 or pick up from Lahore session, 31st December. चलो और मैं कंसेशन देता हूँ, pick up 8th August, भारत छोड़ो. Pick up 21st October, the day Azad Hind Sarkar is formed, a government of the United India, not of a partitioned India. And this whole thing, why hiding facts on Netaji even today? People keep on asking IV files. I have also asked IV files should be released. Let me assure you now, I have come to a conclusion that the IV files will never be released, at least for another 50 years. And that has come through because of the way the British government contested publication of Mountbatten's diaries in England very recently, 2 months back. Same argument. As you said, the Indian Home Secretary saying it will spoil relations with foreign governments. Same it says it will spoil relations with India and Pakistan. So what is this of 47 you are hiding till today? Which has not come out in the market. बहुत बेवकूफ बना लिया. 15 अगस्त आजादी दे दी, आजादी दे दी. मेरा बस चले तो वो जो गाना है दे दिया मैं आजादी बिना खड़क में न डाल. I get that song back. Because that song is not only a humiliation for the braves and martyr revolutionaries of India, it insults them. No one gave us independence. We fought for it and got it. And the Britishers left in scare that before they are kicked out of India, it's better to leave. Sorry. Great are our historians. The transfer of power volumes were published in 76. If you look at Auchinleck's statement, the chief commander of the British in India, when he says that in 1857 type situation is mine, and if we have to stay in India, we will have to reconquer India, and for that I will need 1 lakh soldiers. And on the basis of which we have rights back home, okay, we must reach an agreement, compromise and come to an agreement, or else there will be a movement much more stronger than what I do, which we will not be able to control.
Sir, I'll just add one point here. When he asked for these reinforcements, they asked for certain number of battalions to be sent to India from England or from the other theatres of war where British soldiers were stationed. And the request was very clear that the reinforcement that you send must be entirely British soldiers. Those battalions should not have Indian soldiers, because the INA trials and the naval mutiny and the Royal Indian Air Force mutiny, all these had shaken their faith, their trust on the Indian soldiers. They knew that the Indian soldiers...
Chandrachur, he is writing in that.
Yep.
Every Indian officer in the British Indian Army worth his salt is a nationalist today. Will you believe that on the Gurpurab Day in Calcutta, 1945, when Gurpurab is celebrated, this is from the military intelligence, Eastern Command. The Guru Granth Sahib is kept in the Gurudwara, and along with Guru Granth Sahib is Netaji's photograph. There are all these songs of INA sung there. Sarat Bose addresses them. And out of the 30,000 people present there, 3,000 are serving 6 from the British Indian Army in Calcutta. If you look at these, and there's a full file in archives how these soldiers will be posted. Okay, we can't post them directly, so war is going on in Indonesia, so we'll say they are in transit. We'll put them in India. Tell me which history books tell you that in October 1945, the Royal Indian Navy ships mutinied near Indonesia. The Indians took over. Many of the Dutch and British soldiers were left on the islands. That was the first Royal Naval, what they call mutiny, I'll call, because we have now evidences that INS Talwar, which went to Singapore to bring back now the POs of the INA. The exchanges took place, and they said, you have done your duty, now it is our turn. The revolt comes only in February 46, and the entire Congress leadership and British, नहीं ये तो अपनी wages के लिए लड़ रहे थे, इनको तनख्वाह ज़्यादा मिलनी चाहिए और allowance ज़्यादा मिलने चाहिए. They forget that on those ships 79, the Congress and Muslim League flags both went up for a united India. You people reading your history books, who got an Iron Cross during the First World War, fighting for the British? Who got a Victoria Cross fighting for the British in the Second World War? Can you tell me a single name? 91 INA officers and Jawans were honored by Netaji. Takma-e Bahadri, Takma-e Shatrunash, Takma-e Bharat, Takma-e Shaheed. Can one give me anyone? not a single one to be remembered in one. His books. First time I brought in my book. Here through 1 or 2, 3 names came and I brought down the stories of 64 of them.
And just to add, sir, when these people came back to India, when these soldiers, INA soldiers came back to India, and that time the Congress, the interim government, when it was formed, they were not keen to bring them back into the army. So they were very careful that they should not be re-employed in the army. The government did, under Pandit Nehru, the government did what they did. But the most striking advice was from Mahatma Gandhi. So Mahatma Gandhi's advice was that the INA soldiers who have been brought back into India were very strong men, strong women. So send them to the villages, let them take up agriculture. They should become farmers. I'm not joking. These are all published.
Why not a single INA person was taken back in the army? Was because first Weber, Okhille, and then Mountbatten. This is all on record. Telling Nehru that we need an independent Indian army also. And these people are rebels in the army. This will increase discipline in the army if you take them back in the Indian army. And the last letters I have is very interesting. 2nd August 47. Nehru writes to Mountbatten, begging, अब तो इन्हें छोड़ दो भाई, हमारी बड़ी बेइज्जती हो रही है. And you know what is Mountbatten's order? Letter. You release them, 15th August is coming. What we will do is, we will reduce their terms of imprisonment, like that of ordinary prisoners whom you are releasing, so they can be released. What an honor to the INA. And do you know, till 1970s, not a single INA person was recognized as a freedom fighter in this country. You know, like these things, there are many things which are coming out now. I wish, in fact, I wanted to say this thing to you because you are youngsters. And people look for, we teach in management schools, role models. Tell me, how many from among the Indian leadership are not as role models? Gandhi ko bol denge, Nehru ko bol denge. You pick up any concept of management. I have a full video of that now on my YouTube, Netaji and management. So I won't go into the details. But if you start with management principles, mission statement, independence of India, objective, to retain it by any means, and then you start looking at it. Name me a single country or single person in the world who in a period of 6 months, between July and December 43, reorganizes an army, gets massive funds for that, mobilizes about 3 million Indians in Southeast Asian countries, the Pravasi Bhartis, establishes every branch of the government, and not only as a minister. How many generals in the Second World War led their forces in the front the way Netaji led them and visited in Arkan or on the Imphal sectors, marching with them, same bit, all these things aspect there, the way motivating them. I mean, I was in Thailand looking at Chalpuri training center over there on the island, and I was interviewing some families there of INA, and one very interesting thing I was told, that whenever Netaji visited that camp, the first thing he would do was will go in the kitchen and taste the food. And he said कि अगर खाना खराब था तो उसको कि उस दिन हालत खराब हुई। और खाना नेताजी का नहीं, for the soldiers. There are instances that someone is to be court-martialed. So the 2 judges are from South India and one is from North India, and the person being court-martialed is from South India. So someone from the north goes to Netaji and says that these 2 judges are from South India, and they may not be impartial in the trial. Netaji listens to it. When the person goes away, he removes the third North Indian judge and puts another South Indian judge. There is some problem in a training camp about food. North Indian, South Indian kind of thing. He goes there, tells them, if you want to be in INA, I don't want these problems. You know, he had a common kitchen. Everyone eat from the same kitchen. If you want these problems, leave INA. And human resource management unit. He was not a fool. When he founded the Azad Hind Dal, have you ever heard this name, Azad Hind Dal? Anyone of you? Because that would be not us. A parallel bureaucracy. अगर आजाद हिंद दल सक्सेसफुल हो जाता ना, तो आज ये ब्राउन साहब आईएएस बन के फिर हम पे रूल नहीं कर रहे होते उसी ब्रिटिश मेंटालिटी के साथ.
एक्चुअली अगर आप देखें सर तो he achieved, he did what the Indian National Congress aspired for a united India, for a disciplined army, for keeping people totally loyal and devoted to the development of the country. जहाँ जो इन लोगों का aspiration था and they failed to achieve that, नेताजी ने वो करके दिखाया. That is another point of soreness. Well, I mean, he could achieve. He reaches in Southeast Asia in 1943 May, and he has barely 3-4 months to reorganize the entire army, mobilize the entire population of Southeast Asia, and push the army into the front fighting the battle. इतने short time में, over that vast expanse of area.
And Chandrachur, the most important thing, moving into that Arakan front, which is hidden from the Indian public till now, which was available there. Because these fellows were calling him Tojo's dog and the Japanese Indian force and all. Netaji entered into an agreement with the Japanese before opening the Arakan front from Burma. What was the first condition of that? That any area liberated from the British will fly only Indian flag, no Japanese flag. The second clause was, these areas will be governed and administered by the Indians, not by Japanese. And that is where the Azad Hind Dal, the bureaucracy trained for this, went right up to Manipur to do that. The third clause was, if any soldier is found to have molested any women, Japanese or Indian, he will be shot. Why this thing? Because he had seen that what was happening in Korea and China earlier, what had happened by the Japanese. So, many of these things which are going on, no one brings these things out. Tell me any other leader in the world. Because Netaji started as a political leader, whose assassination plans were made by the British. That he should be murdered. When he used to go from Kabul to Berlin.
Sir, assassination तो बहुत बड़ी बात है. Assassination का तो order किसी के लिए आया ही नहीं था, and that too from the British Prime Minister. But आप ये देख लीजिए कितने freedom fighters को, from the top leaders, बहुत सारे लोगों को अंडमान भेजा गया था, कालापानी में भेजा गया था, and they had a miserable time over there. They suffered their entire lives. But amongst the top leadership of the national movement, how many of them were compelled to stay out of the country? Subhas Bose was the only one. He was forced to live for 3 years in Burma and 3 years in Europe. 6 years of his political career from 1924, I would say, let's say 1921 to 1945, his public political career. These 24 years, out of these 24 years, 6 years were outside the country. He was forced to live outside the country. There is not a single other example.
Only two leaders of the Congress, Lala Lajpat Rai and Tilak were ever extraded from India in other countries. Mande. Both of them. And who were sent to Mande and Andamans? Who were considered as the most dangerous. When Bose was in Mande, the London Jails Commissioner visited Mande jail and he explained Bose as one of the 6 among the most dangerous persons in India. Gandhi and Nehru were never considered dangerous. I'll give you an example right now. The other day we were in a debate, and as you know, this Savarkar bashing goes on these days. There was this representative from the other side. He asked me, do you know how many times Nehru went to jail? I said, I do. Tell me that. But if I ask a counter question, you will not be able to answer. No, I will answer about it. मैं कहा मुझे ये बताइए कौन सी जेल में नेहरू ने चक्की चलाई, कौन सी जेल में नेहरू ने कोलू चलाया, कौन सी जेल में नेहरू को उल्टा लटकाया गया, कौन सी जेल में नेहरू का इंटेरोगेशन हुआ, कौन सी जेल में नेहरू को बर्फ की सिल्ली पे लिटाया गया? नमो भाई साहब, माफीनामा। मैं कहा व्हाट अबाउट नाबा प्रिजन? जरा मोतीलाल नेहरू को माफीनामा निकाल के देखिए। And in 46, when he was arrested by Ali Singh in Kashmir, तब किसने छुड़ाया भाई साहब? क्यों छुड़वाया? मैं कहा वो तो छोड़ो। गांधी जी के लिए तुम्हें मालूम है 200 रुपए महीना स्पेशल सेक्शन हुए थे जेल में उनको रखने के लिए, यरवदा जेल में। गांधी जी ने तो मना नहीं किया कि 200 रुपए मेरे ट्रीटमेंट के लिए जेल में रखने के लिए मुझे।
सर 43-44 में वो 200 रुपए से 500 रुपए ले गए।
बता रहा हूँ। और आप ये देखिए इनको स्पेशल कुक मिलते थे जेल के अंदर इनकी। और पहला काम ये करते थे,
गोट मिलता था सर, दूध के
नहीं, पहला काम ये जेल में जाते करते थे कि हम पॉलिटिकल प्रिजनर हैं, हमें बी क्लास ट्रीटमेंट दिया। Forget that. I don't want to compare. Because anyone who has contributed for India's freedom in any way, but now after reading all these documents, I come to only one conclusion. That the Congress was formed as a safety valve against the British Empire by you to check the unrest against the British, and that role the Congress very faithfully performed during the national movement right up to 1947. When it came to revolutionary movement, you look at their attitude. When it comes to peasant uprisings, you look at their attitude. When it comes to worker strikes, you look at their attitude. When it comes to princely movements, you look at their attitude. And what was their demands? ये दूसरों को कहते हैं अरे 25 साल तक तुम यूनियन जैक का झंडा लगा के गॉड सेव द किंग गाते रहे हो अपने एनुअल सेशन में। What was your demand? हिंदुस्तानियों को सिविल सर्विसेज में नौकरी दे दिया, आर्मी में कमीशन दे दिया जाए। जो सेल्फ रूल की बात ये करते थे उसका क्या मतलब? और वही उन्होंने किया। मुझे एक बात बताइए, which country, if it has achieved independence, will appoint its first Governor General, the last representative of an empire which for 170 years has massacred Indians, looted Indian resources, killed people, imprisoned people? Lord Mountbatten. And if it is independence, why should he take the oath in the name of king on 15th August? How many of you know that the Union Jack never went down on Viceregal Lodge? और राष्ट्रपति भवन माउंटबेटन खुद लिखता है कि in the original program it was there that Union Jack will go down, so I told Nehru we'll feel very sad if this happens. we don't want anyone to feel sad that day. I assure you that it will not go down and it never went down. और आपको मालूम है पंडित माउंटबेटन की जय के नारे लगे, जिस आदमी ने हिंदुस्तान को डिवाइड किया, जिस आदमी ने कोई प्रिकॉशन नहीं लिए कि पार्टीशन की वायलेंस को रोका जा सके, किलिंग्स को रोका जा सके, उसके पंडित माउंटबेटन की जय के नारे। और मैं एक बात करके भी रोकूंगा कि कहने को नेताजी में बहुत कुछ है। एक तो अगर कोई आपसे कहे कि ही डाइड इन द प्लेन क्रैश, उसको उल्टा जवाब दे दीजिए। There was no plane crash, there was no death in plane crash. It is proved beyond doubt. कि उनकी फैमिली गई, कुछ लोग अब डर कर रहे हैं, आज की प्रेजेंट जनरेशन के नेफ्यू 2 साल तक पहले तक कह रहे थे नो प्लेन क्रैश। उनके एक साहब है सूर्या बोस, जब मैं म्यूजियम बना रहा था वहां से मुझको फोन किया जर्मनी से, हाउ डेयर यू wrote he died in the plane crash in the museum. I said, who the hell has told you? I have not even reached that stage by making the museum. What are you writing? I said, I am writing he disappeared. Oh, thank you very much. अब आज वो एक गुमनामी बाबा थ्योरी आई, तो अगर देखिए कोई थ्योरी आई, कुछ लोग कुछ एविडेंस दे रहे हैं, तो साइंटिफिक टेम्पर ये कहता है आप उस एविडेंस को काउंटर एविडेंस से काटिए अगर आपके पास है, अदरवाइज विल एक्सेप्ट इट। तो खाली फेसबुक के ऊपर हल्ला मचाने से या ट्विटर पे हल्ला मचाने से हिस्ट्री नहीं बन जाती। कई लोग हमको रोज हिस्ट्री पढ़ाने की कोशिश करते हैं ट्विटर पे। कल भी किसी ने लिखा मेरे लिए, यू आर एन ओल्ड सिक मैन ट्राइंग टू कैश ऑन नेताजी। So I said, well, nice to hear these comments from a dynasty state. और मैं कुछ नहीं बोला। एक बहुत पर्टिनेंट सवाल जो आता है, मैं अभी 1 महीने पहले तक इस सवाल का आंसर कभी नहीं देता था। जब मुझसे कोई पूछता था कि व्हाई डिड नेताजी कम बैक, I never used to give that answer. Today I am in a position to give that answer. After researching, after looking at documents, after looking at things. If you recall, Netaji has stopped the bombing of Calcutta and Bengal by the Japanese planes. Why? हालांकि वो फैक्टर बना आइए देखिए, he has clearly stated, I don't want my Indians to be bombed and killed. First statement. During Bengal famine, he offered all help from Burma. उनको तो जो का डॉगी बोलते हैं ना, और ये कम्युनिस्ट उस समय उस चर्चिल को जो मैन मेड फेमिन से इंडिया में लाखों बंगाल में लोगों को मार रहा था, बंगाल, उड़ीसा और असम के लोगों को, ये उसका साथ दे रहे थे वर्ल्ड वॉर में। ये नेहरू साहब उसका साथ दे रहे थे कि नेताजी अगर आ गए जापानियों के साथ तो मैं तलवार लेकर के उनसे लड़ने जाऊंगा। उस चर्चिल का साथ दे। वो चर्चिल क्या बोलता था कांग्रेस को, वही भूल गए। नाउ all his dreams sorry, and all his efforts were shattered. What was his dream? Independent, united India. And he said, we have lost the first round. It's bad to reorganize, and efforts will continue. I am proving in my research कि जो लोग आईएनए के वापस इंडिया आए हैं, they became so active identity that another revolution was being planned in India at that time. कहीं आजाद हिंद संघ बन गया, राजी झांसी रेजिमेंट PHU की लड़कियों ने बना ली, कहीं सेवक संघ बन गया डिफरेंट टीम से, जहां आईएनए के सोल्जर्स वर्दी पहन करके परेड कर रहे थे और उनकी स्पीचेस पढ़िए 45-47 के बीच की आप न्यूज़पेपर्स पढ़िए कि उनमें क्या हो रहा है। And when both his dreams are shattered, country is partitioned, and instead of independence, you get dominion status. And who comes to power? Communists. Bose remained a communist. In spite of being thrown out. तो वो आदमी जो अपने हिंदुस्तानियों पे बम नहीं डालना चाहता, उनको मारना नहीं चाहता, वो आदमी इनके ये कॉम्प्रोमाइज करने के बाद में दोबारा आईएनए को लेकर के फिर क्या नेहरू से लड़ने आए? It's second aspect. What do you do when your dreams are shattered? And you reach a stage where you have to again start from scratch or are virtually helpless. When your warrants are there as an international war criminal. थाईलैंड के 6 लोगों को यूनाइटेड नेशंस का क्रिमिनल बताया है, रघुनंदन शर्मा, रघुनाथ शर्मा और ईश्वर। Sometimes you move towards spirituality.
Actually, ये काफी complex issue है. I mean that question why.
But my answer is to that now.
So
his dreams were shattered, and you know he was a very spiritual man. गीता उनकी जिम में रहती, रंगून में रामकृष्ण मिशन में रात को 12 बजे जाके मेडिटेट करते।
Sir, एक छोटा सा है कि I think we are running out of time. So if we can let them ask some questions.
उनके मैनेजमेंट के आइडियाज पे बात किया सर, लेकिन हमें उनके इकोनॉमिक आइडियाज के बारे में बताइए।
1940s सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर खत्म हुआ है, मैं 40s की बात कर रहा हूँ उस टाइम पे। उससे पहले चलिए उससे पहले लेते हैं 30s से लेते हैं। तो इवन इन 30s भारत का हाल क्या था? What were the defining characteristics? It was largely rampant illiteracy. The literacy rate was dismal, almost non-existent. गिने चुने लोगों को पढ़ना लिखना था। Health infrastructure बोले तो कुछ नहीं था। There was absolutely no public health infrastructure. There was no proper education system which could reach to the deeper recesses of the country, to the villages and everywhere. There was no physical infrastructure other than some of the roads and the railway network built by the British. इस हालत में भारत जैसे एक huge country जो है, वहाँ पे आप economically uplift कैसे करेंगे? Naturally उसमें जो होगा कि the state will have to play a very big role. उस हिसाब से सुभाष बोस का जो economic vision idea था, that was in broad terms a leftist vision, a leftist way. But it was not only state controlled. State would play in his scheme of things, state would play the largest role, the biggest role, but there would also be scope for private entrepreneurs, individual industrialists, because they had to fit it. तो उन्होंने जब ये अपना लार्ज स्केल इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन का विजन सामने रखा as in his speech as a Congress president कलिपुरा में 1938 में, तो गांधीवादियों में बहुत वो मची। तो वो लोग परेशान हो गए कि तो फिर इतना इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन की बात कर रहे हैं, साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी की बात कर रहे हैं, तो हमारे खादी विलेज जो इंडस्ट्री है उसका क्या होगा? तो he had to issue a separate statement saying that they can run parallel, but only the village industry, the cottage industry cannot uplift the entire nation. You have to move towards modernizing the country, and to modernize the country, to lift people out of abject poverty, to generate that economic, that wealth, that surplus wealth, to invest in infrastructure, in education, in health, large scale modern science and technology based industrialization की जरूरत है। But ठीक है, इसको तो कोई मना नहीं कर रहा है, आप village industries, cottage industries चला दे रहे हैं, but they cannot be the mainstay. So that was largely his economic.
Add to that, under Azad Hind Sarkar, look at his vision. He establishes Azad Hind Bank. 3 दिन तक जापानी उनसे नेगोशिएट करते रहे, पूरा नेगोशिएशन सामने है। और Japanese never wanted that he should open Azad Hind Bank. He opened the Azad Hind Bank. He issued the currency of independent India. And not only that, look at his speeches in Singapore and other places for resource mobilization. कुछ लोग थे जिन्होंने पैसा देने से मना किया, Azad Hind Sarkar. You know what he says? In a war situation, the entire money belongs to the state. No individual has a right on it. And if you don't contribute by your own will, your properties will be confiscated. He went to the next, very clearly. Then even in 1938, when he's talking of the planning commission, Chacha ji baad mein credit le gaye. He was in Europe at that time. And he was reluctant to take that up. लेकिन जो ये कमीशन बनाई गई थी, इसको आप देखिए कि किनको कंसर्न, who said consulted a person like Meghnad Saha also. Very close.
There was Meghnad Saha, there was Visheshwaraya.
In fact, initially it was Visheshwaraya which was to become the chairman. But then, I'm going to document now. Then it was thought कि अगर विश्वेश्वरैया को बना दिया और ये लोग रहे तो सारे गांधीवादी फिर हल्ला मचाएंगे कि एग्रीकल्चर को अलग किया जा रहा है। तो इसलिए हुआ कि बेस्ट तरीका डील करने का, नेहरू को बना दो, कम से कम गांधीवादी तो हल्ला नहीं मचाएंगे। That is how Nehru's name came up from that. And so, and you see certain things he was doing one by one. He formed the Azad Hind Dal for governance. And while in Burma, he was now creating the Indian diplomatic corps. 11 countries ने उन्होंने replace किया, तो फौरन उसके लिए भी वो अपना कोर बना रहे हैं. That is why I said कि in a period of 6 months, आप समझिए कि एक एग्जाम आता है आपके सामने और 3 पेपर अगर क्लियर कर रहे होते हैं एग्जाम में, तो आपके ऊपर क्या टेंशन होती है? और समझिए यूथ ऑफ, मैं तो यूथ ही बोलूंगा, एक लीडर ऑफ 48 years old. What was his age? 45. 1897 born है भाई. 48-year-old. किस तरीके के ट्रॉमा, किस तरीके की टेंशन, किस तरीके की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, किस तरीके की ड्यूटी उस माइंड पे रही हो, उसके बावजूद ये चीजें की. And I think not only economic, his views on foreign diplomacy, his views on democracy, how to establish it, his views even on human grounds. No one talks of Netaji's humanism. I wish I was expecting a question of that, how much of a human he was. And I narrate a small incident. जब डोनेशंस दी जा रही थी, तो एक हॉकर से लेकर के और अरबपतियों तक ने उनको पैसा दिया. तो एक लेडी सिंगापुर में कपड़े बेचारी के फटे हुए थे, कुछ सिक्के दे रहे, तो कर्नल महबूब लिखते कि his face went up and down. वो ले लिए बात. तो पूछा कि why were you hesitating? And he said, my hesitation was that I take this money from her. What will she eat from? And second hesitation was, if I don't take the money, she may think that I don't respect the poor. और उसके बाद में कर्नल महबूब को भेजा कि पता करो ये बेटी कौन है, कहाँ रहती है, चाहिए कौन. नेताजी की खास आदमी जानकी थेवर भी जब उसको अपने गहने देके गई है, 16 साल की लड़की थी जो INA में आई है, कमांड किया, उस जानकी थेवर के भी घर पहुंच गए थे नेताजी शाम को वापस करने हो गए थे कि बच्ची ऐसे ना दे गई हो, घर वाले क्या गए. और महबूब आगे बताता है कि उसके बाद रहने की कोई जगह नहीं है, कोई आय का साधन नहीं है. तो नेताजी ऑर्डर से कि जब हमें लिबरेशन मिल जाएगी तो जहां पे लेडी सेटल होना चाहे इंडिपेंडेंट इंडिया के अंदर उसे ले आगे से एंड महबूब did it. Went back in 47 to Singapore, brought that lady and settled her in Punjab. को एक डेविल करके प्रोजेक्ट किया लेफ्टिस्ट ने और कांग्रेस ने. No one looked at the human errors. And the kind of, you see, first modern army of the women in the world. And his statement, मैं नहीं चाहता कि मेरी विमेन जौहर करे, मैं चाहता हूं कि मेरी विमेन तलवार ले. इससे ज्यादा विमेन एम्पावरमेंट के लिए मुझे बताइए और क्या सेशन.
Hello. Sir, I want to ask this question. Why did the British did not leave India after the First World War, even though India had provided them substantial number of troops, and British had appreciated also and kind of promised it also, and they were able to squeeze out almost the substantial part of wealth from the country.
You are missing something. Before that, ask, in spite of utilizing all the resources of India in the First World War, why did British give us a Jallianwala Bagh and Rodak Act in return? And if you understand that story, see, do you expect anything out of the British world over in favor of a colony? How did they kill that time called Red Indians or the locals like ducks in Americas? What is the American nation? It has no history, it has no culture, it has no values, it has no heritage. All criminals and looters of Europe moved to Americas. किसी ने वहां सोने की खदान बना ली, किसी ने रेलवे चला दिया, किसी ने बैंक बना लिया. एक दिन याद आता है, अरे हम पैसा वापस इंग्लैंड से हो गए. Let us be independent. बोस्टन में पार्टी करके अपनी इंडिपेंडेंस किया. और जिस कंट्री का बेस ही इकोनॉमिक नेशनलिज्म, उस कंट्री से आप एक्सपेक्ट करेंगे वो आपको कोई वैल्यूज में या उसके ऊपर आपको करेंगे. तो ब्रिटिश पॉलिसी इन इंडिया इज वेरी स्ट्रेट एंड सिंपल. Anyone who is a threat to the British Empire, and do you know what made Netaji a threat to the British Empire? Can someone tell me the earliest thing?
What's that, sir? What question? What was the question you asked?
What made the British so scared of Netaji?
His spirit. His spirit.
No, that comes much later. It's quietly related to spirit, but his action I am asking. Yes.
His formation of the government.
No. He's leaving the ICS.
Okay.
Okay, here is a man, a youth, who to serve his country is kicking the highest service of the British in India. And that happens for the first time. There is an intelligence report of 1929 from Lahore session, in which I admire the CID inspector very much. Inspector, he is the man to be watched. He can go for armed assistance from foreign countries to liberate India. That man is saying in 1929.
Sir, as you just mentioned about that case as well, I think it was that Netaji gave the civil services exam and there were just 3 Indians who passed that exam. And when he got the certificate, he actually tore it away. Just to show that yes, I'm capable of working.
Nothing.
Here in Chave, please don't go by these false things. You see, sometimes people.
So my question is actually related to this only. As we have been witnessing, and you also hinted towards it, Netaji is discredited for much of the work that he has done for the country. Besides that, there has been an attempt to overshadow his name by actually building rhetorics about other leaders. So in such times of disinformation where we do not have any government-backed information available about Netaji, and the government of the day is also a bit reluctant about releasing some facts. How do we actually bring his name up? How we actually learn more about him? And besides that, how can we counter the questions that the allegations that have been put against him, besides being his ideology?
See, that is the first point I started with, which were available publicly but were never utilized by the establishment historians. तो ये किताब लिखने के पीछे जो मकसद है वो वही है, to utilize that information to bring out the real facts, the history as to what Subhas Chandra Bose stood for, what all he did, and this documenting this, putting the pieces of the puzzle together so you get a more complete picture. तो अभी जो अब आज यहाँ पे जो हो रहा है, that you have called us to discuss, to talk about it. You read books like this, new facts, new information, new writers are coming up. You encourage them, you promote them, you discuss जो ये चिंतन मंथन मनन की बात है. तो यही ऐसे ही करते करते आगे जाएंगे ना बात. जब हमने मिशन नगर की शुरू किया था अराउंड 2004-2005, लोग हमें पागल बोलते थे. The first time we went to the Central Information Commission, the Information Commissioner was a former Chief Secretary of Odisha, and he gave us a full dressing down. We were youngsters at that time. I'm talking about 16 years ago, 17 years ago. So he said, "You guys are wasting your time. Don't you have anything better in your life to do? Why are you wasting your time after some old piece of history which everybody has forgotten?" But then, by the same gentleman, as the case progressed, he himself got so absorbed and so interested, he started taking a different perspective. He stood by us. So this thing, when we were talking about Netaji in 2006, when people were calling us crazy, mad fellows, people who don't have anything better in life, now look at the youngsters all over social media, the number of people who are talking about Subhas Bose, about Netaji, about the INA, about the Azad Hind government, about the comparative roles of the Gandhian Congress, about the contribution of the INA to India's freedom, to the hasty retreat by the British Raj. So if you see, it takes time, but the spirit builds up. The more you talk about it, the more you read, the more you talk to your friends, your network, your contact, it spreads, and people, it's a matter of dissemination. It's a matter of generating awareness. So the more it happens, it has its own power, own force. It will continue, it will only increase, and that will happen. Nobody can stop that.
Good afternoon, sir. A lot of questions are coming in my mind, but I will go with one. So, Netaji was having a very dynamic personality, a great leader and politician. So, sir, do you think if Netaji would have been in place of Gandhiji or Nehruji, so then the partition of India would have never happened?
आप आईएनए को देख लो. मैंने एक चीज बोला कि जो ये लोग एस्पायर कर रहे थे, जो करना चाहते थे, जो गोल था, एम था, नहीं कर पाए, वो उन्होंने करके दिखाया. तो उनके सरकार में, आजाद हिंद सरकार में, आजाद हिंद फोर्स में, फौज में, if there was no division of religion, no division amongst communities, if they fought as one, as Indian, there is a very nice comment by Shahnawaz Khan in the Red Fort trials. रेड फोर्ट ट्रायल्स में शाहनवाज खान ने डिस्क्राइब किया कि कैसे मुस्लिम्स ने आजाद हिंद फौज ज्वाइन किया. At the very initial stage, that he said that was the first stage. When the Japanese, along with General Mohan Singh, formed the INA, it was largely formed of Sikhs and Hindus. तो जो मुस्लिम बाहर रह गए थे because of the loyalty to the British Empire, they felt कि अगर ये फौज भारत में जाएंगे, they have control of all the arms. They will control all the arms. So they can dictate over the Muslim community. So some of them decided to join the INA just to get access to the arms and to know the movements, the thoughts of the INA commanders and the Japanese. Second, जब mobilization शुरू हुआ, they started going along with that. But according to Shahnawaz Khan, he was candid enough, he was honest enough, frank enough to admit it. He said, पहली बार जब नेताजी Southeast Asia पहुंचे, when he raised the second IN, properly एक army बना, और that army went to the front, to the Arakan front, to the Imphal, Kohima battlefield. Then, at that time, when the Azad Hind government was formed, the first time we realized, we felt that we are Indians. Being Indian, भारतीय होना, ये हमारे पहली पहचान है. We were no more thinking in terms of community or religion or sectoral interests. तो ऐसा आदमी, आप खुद बताइए, ऐसा आदमी अगर भारत में होते, during the crucial years of 46, 47, when the negotiations were going on, पहली बात तो अगर नेताजी उस टाइम पे भारत में होते तो माउंटबेटन ही नहीं होते, नहीं आते वहाँ पे. माउंटबेटन नहीं आते तो माउंटबेटन के जो चिले जो सारे थे वो भी नहीं होते, उनके पीछे भागने वाले, उनकी बीवी के पीछे भागने वाले जो होते वो भी नहीं होते. तो उस हालत में कहाँ से ये पार्टीशन एंड ऑल, we would have had a united India. There is no doubt about it.
और बता दूं यहाँ पे आपको, एक तो 14 सितंबर 1944 की नेताजी की स्पीच पढ़िए पाकिस्तान के ऊपर. It is worth reading that speech. And even the last sentence he is addressing to the Muslim youth is, okay, have you ever thought what will be your status in Pakistan? जो आपको हो रहा है पाकिस्तान के हालात देख करके. दूसरी चीज 1945 की, अगेन दिस इज फ्रॉम द मिलिट्री इंटेलिजेंस रिपोर्ट, जब INA ट्रायल्स शुरू हुए और कैलकाटा में भयंकर रॉयटिंग हुई उन ट्रायल्स की. द अमेरिकन फोर्सेज वर अटैक्ड. I think about more than 50 people died in firing. The students came out on streets. तो मुस्लिम एक इस्लामिया कॉलेज है कैलकाटा के अंदर, उसके स्टूडेंट्स ने भी खूब बढ़ चढ़ करके इसमें हिस्सा लिया एजुकेशन में. तो मुस्लिम लीग का सेक्रेटरी जाता है उस कॉलेज के और उन स्टूडेंट्स को डांट लगाता है जाके और कि तुम इनमें हिस्सा नहीं लोगे. और जब वो रीजन पूछते हैं तो कहता है कि अगर बोस आ जाता तो हमारी पाकिस्तान की डिमांड का क्या होता. दिस इज अ ट्रैक. और एक इंस्टेंस आपको और मैं बता दूं नेताजी का. There's a Chettiar temple in Singapore. Netaji asked for donations from that temple. And they said, we will give you donations, but we request you first to come and deliver a lecture in the temple. So Netaji did his own queries and he was told that they follow casteism in this temple and they don't allow certain castes to enter the temple. So Netaji sent a reply, okay, I will come to the temple and lecture, but I will come with all my officers. And the temple agreed. So Netaji went with Shahnawaz, with Divi, with Tracy. They were Christians also, Muslims also, everyone. And each one of them was given a tilak in the temple.
I think we are about to
We have
finish.
one last question.
I'll just add one little one sentence, and then another anecdote before we take the last question. This is more contemporaneous example. This is about Mujibur Rahman. You would know the name of Mujibur Rahman, the first president of independent Bangladesh. Mujibur Rahman was a student when Subhas Bose was in the Congress president and later on formed the forward bloc and out of the Congress. So Mujibur Rahman was a follower of Subhas Bose. And when Netaji was broadcasting from Southeast Asia, Mujibur Rahman was a staunch supporter and active worker of the Muslim League, working for the partition of India. He used to listen to Netaji's broadcasts. And later in his autobiography he wrote, when I used to hear him, I knew that we needed this man here in India. I wanted with all my heart that this man should be in India right now. बट उसी मोमेंट में मेरा ये भी डर लगता था कि ये बंदा अगर आ गया भारत में तो फिर हमारा पाकिस्तान कभी नहीं बन पाया. So that was the dilemma they were facing.
So we have a last question.
Namaste, sir. Sir, we see that in today's time, popular narratives come up where people say that Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose was a communist or a leftist, whereas these are the same people who are not ready to actually ask questions like how much of a humanist was he. So what is stopping the people to ask right questions? And sir, as you said that a political and a historical revolution is coming up, but still we see that only 91 out of the 202 documents have been released. So sir, till when can we give the excuses of foreign relations and hide from the reality? And when will that revolution come?
See, it's about politics. It's about politics. A government takes action only when there is demand from the people. Political parties, what do they care for? They care for votes. That's the first thing they care for. So when they see enough interest, when they see functions like this, events like this, discussions like this, young students coming together in thousands, people talking about the issue, they will be forced to open up. About your point of being communist, my counter question would be, name one communist in Indian political history who floated the idea of turning Hinduism into a proselytizing religion. That all other religions preach, convert. They take new people into their fold, and Hinduism doesn't do that. So why shouldn't Hinduism look at that possibility? He was a deeply religious, spiritual person. And as I said, he was never to be bracketed within any particular ism. Neither communism, nor socialism, nor fascism, nor any other ism. He was a humanist, he was a nationalist, he was a democrat, and the nation's interest was his first interest. Nothing else defines him.
If I add one thing to this, don't forget, as Chandrachur is saying, he had only one ideology, one mission, one task. And that was liberation of India.
Independent.
As I said. Second thing, study his relations with All India Kisan Sabha. Sahijanand Saraswati, N.G. Ranga, Indulal Jajne, they all joined forward bloc at Ramgarh. The strongest Kisan Sabha movement in the India. He had worked in Jamshedpur, in Disco, among the labor. He had a vast experience. And if you look at his correspondence from Mandalay to his brother, because he's put in Mandalay that he's having relations with revolutionaries in Russia and he's a Bolshevik and all that, which the British are projecting him. And it's a very humorous letter which he writes saying, if I wanted to be a communist, I would have taken the first boat to Europe. That's what he says. He is trying to synthesize everything into one thing only, and that is independence of India. And last word I'll tell you is, I think he realized, because many people were saying this aspect, particularly Swami Sahijanand Saraswati, Kisan leader, or India Kisan leader was saying this. When India got independence, India became slave, a charkha was flying in every house. So this Gandhi's own emphasis in charkha, that charkha will give you independence, is wrong. And I think what Subhas Bose realized was that instead of charkha you may need for rural development and whatever and all, what is needed to liberate India is a Sudarshan Chakra. And that is what I now call, people may disagree with me, they may attribute by any names to me. I now say that there have been 4 Iron Mans in modern India. I put Bose as the first Iron Man, Patel as the second Iron Man. Being a Gandhian and a Insa follower, when the need arises, he also takes arms. He follows Bose line. Whether it comes to Hyderabad, like him. The third Iron Man I call is Lal Bahadur Shastri. Because to take a decision at that time to cross the international border and attack Lahore was not a decision of a Gandhiite or of a Ahimsawadi, of those who wanted to demolish Lahore. And the fourth, people may disagree with me, but in international affairs and in defense, at what stage India is standing today, I call my leader as an Iron Man.
Thank you, Professor, for the wonderful session. Now I invite upon my friend Rajat for a formal vote of thanks.
For that brilliant conversation. And I can see that people are leaving because no one is really ready to listen to me after that. But this is not just vote of thanks, it also has announcements for the next sessions that we are going to organize today and tomorrow. So please bear with me for 5 minutes. So right after the session ends, which we have one session on the first floor in the multi-purpose hall. This is the 5th lecture of the historiography series of Historical India, and it is being delivered by Professor Vasant Shinde. He is a prominent archaeologist and former VC of Deccan College, Pune. And the theme is very interesting and very contentious, so I think all of you must join it. The theme is South Asian Ancestry. Was there ever an Aryan migration? The second lecture, which will happen in the same place in the evening, is another book session, book discussion. The book discussion of a book by Swapna Das Gupta that is called Reawakening Bharat. Awakening Bharat Mata, the political beliefs of India's right. Historical India is also launching the Professor B.P. Lal Memorial Lectures, and the official launch is today, and it will be inaugurated by none other than Professor Dilip Chakravarti, who is an eminent archaeologist, not just in India but internationally, and he is Professor Emeritus at Cambridge University. Apart from him, other eminent guests would be Vasant Shinde sir, Dr. B.R. Mani sir, ex-director ASI, and Dr. K.M. Dikshit sir. He is former president, Indian Archaeological Society. And the theme of the discussion would be continuity in Indian civilization, what archaeology says. Now, on behalf of Historical India and Bharat Book Club, I would like to thank our speakers for this stirring, enriching, and brilliant session. I'm sure we all have